You see it in movies today. You see it like with the Star Wars. They strayed too far from the Star Wars formula. With Indiana Jones, they strayed too far. With the new Halloween movie, which I was talking about, Halloween Ends, they strayed too far because audiences become complacent in what they like and what they see. That's why certain movies get so many sequels, because they continuously hit, and it's sort of the same formula. Sometimes you do try to change up that formula, and you get movies like Halloween Ends, which sucks, or you get movies like Friday the 13th Part 5, which a lot of people really, really hate, but some people have come to love. It deviates a lot. If you know, maybe it deviates a lot from the Friday the 13th things. And then you also get like Nightmare on Elm Street Part 5 or Freddy's Dead, which starts to deviate a little bit from what was previously established, and they kind of make them a little more comedic and stuff. And especially when they start trying to make them more comedic, or they try to make them too serious, that's when people start to get pulled out. Because Freddy's always been sort of like a funny jibe guy, but then they start going a little maybe too comedic and a little too far out there, then people kind of get pulled out a little bit. And it's just like Scream 3. Yeah,
I can see that entirely. Yeah, that's where I kind of I want franchises to understand when to end themselves. Like when is a good stopping point? When can you go, we do not need more stories in this universe. It's done, it's closed, it's finished. Let's start a new one. We have new ideas. Let's take what we learned from that and do something else. That would be fine with me too. That'd be my biggest compromise. Like,
I'm fine with letting things end myself. I think things should end. It's just when something hits and makes a lot of money, the sequel comes. Period. It's plain and simple. Even if you have a definitive ending and it makes like $200 million on a $50 million budget, guess what? You're getting a sequel.
It's interesting when you mentioned Star Wars, because it's like that's one of the only franchises I can think of where you could tell a various amounts of stories within that universe, because it's such a vast galaxy. You've seen so many different planets and characters and creatures and scenarios. Like I feel like that is where that type of thing could thrive, but there's been so many crap ones with crap writing and crap characters that it's like our interest levels are so down that when Andor came out, the best thing Disney's ever made, like nobody wants to give it any time because they just saw Kenobi and Boba Fett and Mando, and it's like, and off the sequel trilogy too. So it's like, I can understand why nobody would want to give that a chance. Even it's like it's worse quality to most people that it's boring, which to me is like, well, then that still makes it the best thing Disney's made for Star Wars. But
I haven't seen it. I quit watching all that stuff a long time ago because it's just not good to me. So
that's fine. I can understand that there's some people I won't be able to convince to see it, but they actually seem to care in it and like have elements that could fit with original trilogy and prequel stuff that isn't shoehorning stuff. It isn't ruining any characters. It's like actually passionately caring about stuff and having nuances that are like good. And it's like, just like, where was this? Why didn't they start with something like this so we don't have this horrible taste in our mouth of Kenobi and stuff? But
I haven't watched. The last thing of Star Wars I ever watched was Mandalorian season 2. I never watched Rise of Skywalker, and that was it. I'm done. I'm done with that. I'm done with the Marvel crap.
Yeah,
I'm done with that. Like it's another prime example is once you deviate too far from what fans are accustomed to, people tune out. And you're seeing lower returns on all this stuff. And I mean, I know some people like the new Scream movies, and they actually got their budgets. Thing is, that's because those were actually made with small budgets. So they're and like I did a video on horror fans. It's Wes Craven has said that horror fans is the one group of fans that you can guarantee will come out to a horror genre film. Period. More so than any other genre fan, horror fans come out.
Yeah. I can even see, like westerns. If people like westerns, I don't know if they'd go out for big support of all of them. Not nearly as much as that. The Marvel and all this stuff that's already showing. Most people don't. It's iffy here and there if anybody cares.
Yeah, like with horror fans, whether the movies are good or bad, it's just like why Insidious: The Red Door beat Indiana Jones at the box office is because there's a love for horror films, whatever it is that horror films do to people. the fans of horror films, they will go and buy tickets. They will buy horror merchandise. They will watch horror movies, even like Scream 6. That's why Scream 6. That's why there's like 13 Friday the 13th films. That's why there's 10 Freddy's or 8 Freddy's, and now there's 6 Screams, going to be 7 Screams.
Films too.
Leprechaun, Chucky. Yeah. People will continue to buy these horror movies because there's something about horror movies and
even
horror
when
movie
they're
fans.
At their worst, even when they're at their worst, they're entertaining.
They show up. They show up. And the thing is, one of the things with that as well is like horror films are still modestly budget movies. Like you can make a horror film in Hollywood for like $50 million and it will make $200 million.
Yeah, 50 million sounds like a high amount for a horror film.
It sounds like, and then like independent. That's like on the higher end. You can actually make it like a $20 million, even shoot a $200,000 horror film, and they will go.
It's like $1 million sounds like, wow, that's a lot to put into a horror film. Damn.
Well, they did. That's budgets
how much
nowadays.
Was the Thing? Like the Thing, I imagine that was,
the Thing was probably like $8 million back in the day, if not 10.
Well, probably expensive and everything. Yeah, that's true, but but still, yeah, that's fun.
You're thinking like you got to remember, because these are still at the end of the day, because like they're going to have a pretty decent sized budget.
Yeah,
can you hear me? $10 million for the budget of the Thing from 1982. So yes, that's still actually that's actually a low budget film. That's actually a low budget film for 1982, and it flopped. It flopped in the theaters. The Thing did. And it didn't grow through the years. It got bigger.
Wow.
Throughout the years.
That's probably another thing with horror films is that if they don't do well right away, you'll find out in 10 years if it's good or not. Because that could pick up. People just might not see it at the theater, and then later they'll see it on TV or see it at somebody's house, and it's like, well, what is this? Oh shoot! Okay, this is good. All right, yeah, shoot, why not?
There's just something about horror films. I don't know what it is. As a horror fan myself, I don't know what it is. Somebody asked me this question. I thought about doing a video on this. Is like, what's a horror fan today? Well, the thing is, like, I personally love multiple genres. I love the horror film, but I love action, comedy, everything. I'm a movie lover at heart, so I will watch movies of any types. A lot of horror fans watch horror and only horror. They don't go into actions. They don't go into comedies. They don't go in all that. They will only watch horror movies. And that's one of the reasons I think why, like the big hardcore horror fans, that's why I think they make so many successful horror movies, because these guys will always show up, good or bad, movie, TV show, whatever, good or bad. They crave that horror. They crave that adrenaline. They crave that scare. They crave that blood and guts and gore. They will go out and they actually have a pretty decent good jobs and livings, because you can't really sometimes tell a horror fan apart. Maybe you see somebody with like the green hair and the nose rings and the tattoos and like Freddy on their arm. But then also you could see a guy in a business suit and he could lift up his like pants and have like Freddy Krueger on his socks. So like a horror fan can be anybody, and you don't know it.
They end up, I assume that a lot of them end up becoming horror film creators. The fans, a lot of them do. It's that type of thing that's as far as short films, those are probably easier to make anyway too, as horror films to start when you barely have anything. Try horror genre. That's easier. That's where a lot of people actually get their starts, are in the horror genre. I mean, you see it with Kevin Bacon. You see with what's his name, Johnny Depp. You see with Johnny Depp. You see it with a lot. Lawrence Fishburne. He's in Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3. Like a lot of these people and like directors and stuff will start in horror films, and then they make their way into bigger budgets and stuff. Well, nowadays it's just casting directors and stuff, and like the directors and them really don't have. They're just hired because they're But back in the day, there's actually creative directors and actors and writers were all sort of working together, and it became big from that point. Nowadays, it's just all content.